listeners. How has your week been as a parent? Joyful? Stressful? Both? Well, I'm guessing both. It isn't very easy being a parent, is it? But it's not that bad either. If you can sit back, breathe a bit, and just tune into some good old advice. Some shared experiences of other parents and get a few of your nagging questions answered in the process. Well, that's what we try to do in our weekly parenting podcast on cnbctv18.com, Questions That Need Answers. I'm your host, Manisha Natarajan, a mommy myself, and I'm happy to be back with all of you. In our celebrity season, my guest today is someone who realized the need to bring out questions and conversations amongst families and raising children way back in 2010. She is, to me, the trailblazer in parenting content and programming in India. Her personal style is unmatched. Her smile can light up the screen and make your day brighter. Her positivity shines through and makes you believe that the world is a better place. And believe me, her energy is infectious. Without making you wait anymore, let me introduce you to the entrepreneur, actor, producer, and a super mom, Tara Sharma, of the famous Tara Sharma Show.
Thank
Tara,
you.
I know that you're really busy shooting your 5th season, and I'm so grateful you made the time.
So before I even say thank you to that, I have to say I literally have tears in my eyes because that was so sweet and so kind and way too generous. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And really, I felt very emotional with that introduction, so thank you.
No, it's a pleasure, and it actually captures your personality and what you've done.
Thank you.
Let me start with the fact that, you started, now you have everybody who's talking about parenting, how important it is, bringing out these conversations in the open. You have mainline media like the Washington Post, the New York Times. Of course, we did it before New York Times did, the parenting podcast. You did it. I mean, you conceived of it in 2009 and 10. How did you come up with that idea?
So I think conceived is a key word because soon after I conceived my first son, our first baby, honestly, the question was in my head about what am I going to do to be with our kids and work? Because I think I realized very early on that I'm going to be the kind of mom who wants to be with the kids as much as possible, but I'm also someone who's always worked. Prior to being in films, I was working at Accenture, I was at LSE, so for me, working is part of me.
Non-negotiable.
Yeah, so I think I knew that. So it was kind of like, what am I going to do that will combine both? And my dad, who was an author and a playwright and known as the voice of India, Pratap Sharma, he always used to say, don't sit and wait for the phone to ring with an offer. If you want to do something, create it. And quite honestly, I'm not some big superstar. And I stopped getting great acting work. And I wasn't getting the kind of stuff I wanted to do. And I knew I didn't want to leave the babies once they were born for long periods of time. So I thought, what can I do that combines my passions, biggest passion of family, being with them, and being on screen, and the business side. So this seemed like a great way of doing all that. And so that's honestly how it organically began, how it started. 10 years, 9 years, wow. My God.
And 5th season.
5th season now. So it's evolved. I think every season has changed. Season 1 and 2 were my diary as a mom. And we had lots of guests and followed, it was kind of guerrilla style, followed us all over the world, doing fun things with the kids, the ups and downs, like cleaning potty or giving them a bath, taking them on a flight, all that. And now it's evolved into more of a platform to discuss issues with a view to positive change.
All right. And like you said, you get up with the first thing in the morning is a smile, right? So positive change. I've gone through some of your work, and everybody who's who is on your show. So you've got Kajol, you've got Amir Khan, thinking actors. You also have sporting stars like Dhoni and Virat Kohli, the sensation. So tell me, I mean, if you were to just go over your journey with the Tara Sharma Show, what have been some of your learnings by interacting with these big stars?
So I'll be honest, it is, firstly, I'm tremendously grateful to everyone who's been on the show, everyone who's been part of allowing me to create it. I create it, I co-produce it, I co-write it. So it's truly like another baby to me. I think everyone has taught me something different. I say through the show, my favorite line, and it probably annoys people who watch me a lot, is each to their own, and let's not judge, because everyone's situation is different. And I think the more people I meet, the more that resonates, because I feel everyone really is different. And the beauty is that we all respect that. So in terms of what I've learned from some of the famous people, the biggest learning is that parenting is a great leveler, and everyone is the same when it comes to that.
Doesn't matter if you're a celebrity.
It really doesn't. The issues, whether it's, dealing with, I don't know, a tantrum or going back to cleaning potty or anything, like we all, it's a great leveler. Also, I find that because in our show, every episode has a theme, we try and match the guest to the theme. So, for example, Virat came on an episode on following your dreams. And I find myself quoting him a lot, not just because he's a superstar cricketer, but because his advice was so valuable.
And what was that?
Our kids are, very obsessed with cricket. And he spoke about how when he started, it wasn't just enough to be talented. You also had to have a good attitude, and how he worked hard on that. And so if ever my kids are throwing a tantrum, I say, remember what Virat said? And it's not a name dropping thing. It's genuinely great advice. And he's not a dad. So he spoke of his experiences as a kid. Similarly, say with someone like Amir, recently when I was quite concerned about climate change and issues in that zone.
Yes, absolutely.
And I was, trying to reflect
Very
back.
empathetic thinking actor.
And when I was thinking of, in the context of today, an issue on climate change, I was thinking, if I have to cut something from my show, which is relevant to this, it suddenly struck me that, Amir spoke about how everyone can make a difference, no matter how big or small, everyone has a voice. It's not just big stars, but everyone, if you speak up, can make a difference. And in my own way, that has inspired me. So I think that was great advice. Similarly, someone like Mary Com, I had her on the show with her husband Onla. And she spoke amazingly about how she said, I might be the champion in the ring, but Onla's the champion at home.
Absolutely.
And,
and without his support, she wouldn't be the champion that she is.
So I think, it's amazing advice from superstars, but it's also honestly amazing advice that could have also come from non-superstars, which also makes you realize that this is a universal theme, and bringing up, as you said, empathetic children and people and human beings is something that we all
value. Talking about values now, I know we want these, we might say it otherwise, but we all want these amazing children who are well behaved, maybe naughty, but just a little bit, and they grow up to be, like we said, wonderful human beings. If there were 3 non-negotiable values that you would like to drive into your 2 boys, Kai and Zen, how old are they right now?
They're now 9 and 7.
Oh, well, what a beautiful age. So I say that because I passed that age.
You are a veteran. You are a veteran, so I have to be asking you advice about the next ages. But for me, the show evolves with their ages in terms of the phases I am in, because of course I can only speak about what I'm able to experience. So again, there are so many things. I think, one of my biggest learnings from my own parents is to always keep learning and to keep reinventing. So I think one's always learning. So there are always good values that you want to imbibe. But if I had to think, for me, 3 off the top of my head, really important things are, and it sounds strange, but I'll say good health for us all, forever, touch wood. And the reason why I call it a value is because I believe that we can all do things, value things which enable us to have healthier lives, whether it's the environment around us, being conscious of things like climate change, pollution, things in your immediate surrounding, exercising well, eating well, all that. I think those are things that, we need to inculcate in a young age, because they are lifestyle choices that then you take with you forever. Right. And values, it sounds strange to call it a value, but I think it's really important, not just for yourself, but for people around. Then, of course, I think being empathetic and being, humble and empathetic and inclusive. Of course, I'm using lots of words to try and fit it all into 3, but, being good people.
Good people.
And I think also this thing of, as idealistic as it sounds, it's something that I live by, advice from my dad again, of, keep reinventing. Don't stagnate. Don't give up.
Well, our children are going to get into a gig economy. They will have to reinvent themselves constantly with changing technology.
Absolutely.
And I think
as we are.
We are.
I a few years ago, none of us knew what Instagram, all these things were. Now it's like, let's put this picture up.
You stopped blogging and you're on Instagram more.
Yeah, this is the thing. So
it's a more powerful medium now.
I think you have to keep being open to change. And it's interesting because technology at some level is just a metaphor for it, but it's for so many things in life. Just be open to the fact that you need to be able to embrace change because that is the only constant. Right?
Yeah, and not get thrown off balance by change. So I think that's something that if we can teach our children, they'll be so much more resilient.
Absolutely.
And be ready for tomorrow. So we're sitting here at cnbc.tv18.com and we're doing a parenting podcast. Yeah. And we're hoping that, some of the big business leaders are listening into this podcast. As a parent, we all know that children teach us patience. But like you said, London School of Economics, you worked with Accenture. If you were to go through your own parenting experience, what you've learned from your guest, what is it that business leaders can learn from children? Some values. 3, 4, 5, take your pick.
I think, so actually a very popular word in these 10 years, and I've seen that word grow, has been multitasking mom and mompreneur. And we've had discussions on our show about even the word mompreneur. Is it in some way derogatory? Are you saying you're not an entrepreneur because you're a mompreneur? So anyway, but one of the words or the key things that has come out is that parenting or being a mom and a dad, of course, teaches you a lot of time management. So I think that is something that I think the kids help you with, because there's no doubt that you have to do a gazillion things and you have to do them well. And I was a huge nerd in school, so I used to be one of those kids who would lock myself in the room and I would actually time and I would write down how many hours I studied each day, each subject, and I would try and beat it the next day. I was fully nerdy to the point that my parents used to say, my dad used to say, you have to come out, otherwise you're going to be punished. So if I were to say about these things that business leaders, or all of us, I guess, learn from the kids, I would say time management, as you said, patience. I think you really learn about yourself. Not always good. I think I've discovered a monster. I've discovered a monster within me that I didn't know existed. People always think of me as quite gentle and quiet, and my husband says,
sunshine,
come
smiling.
home one day and see her when she's in action screaming. You will not have that view. So I think you learn about yourself, which is an amazing thing, because there are not many things that really teach you even about those not
absolutely.
So great,
like they say, you don't need to see a mirror once you have a child. Sometimes whatever you're doing, you want to teach them a certain thing, but they're going to just reflect what you're doing. So, it's such a conscious decision in terms of what you do around your children, right?
Absolutely. And I think also what I've really learned from my kids, and I would say this in the last 4 months, has been that you need to speak up if you feel something. I, by nature, am a bit of a non-controversial fattu. I'm somebody who doesn't like to kind of take a stand in a very public, in a controversial way. So my show is a very comfortable space. Touch wood, I feel grateful because I know a lot of guests who may not go on all shows have come on ours also because it's family, it's safe, it's, and, you mentioned some people
It's comforting. You talk about issues, but without becoming angry about them.
And there's no I love
level.
entertaining, gossipy shows and stuff as well, but this is not that. So I think there's an element of no one's going to be put in a spot. But what the kids have taught me is that they will come home and they will say, Mama, I need to go and talk to the people in the building about saving water, or I need to go and tell them not to throw the plastic down, or I need to go and what I really love, and perhaps it's the form of education now as well, in their case it's PYPIB, this question authority, be respectful, of course, but you don't take things just...
But be brave enough to challenge if the issue is strong enough.
Absolutely, non-controversially, nicely. And to me, that's a huge lesson, because I think somewhere it's easy to say, oh, this is how it is we won't do anything. And I feel like we owe it to our children. If we're teaching them to do it, that we need to be able to do it too. So for me, that's a tremendous lesson. And
not dismiss it. I mean, a lot of times children will say, but why are we using so much plastic? And I've seen families actually dismiss that conversation and say, it's okay, poster bana diya, but we just got to do it. It's important. You can still carry a bottle. Tara Sharma carried a bottle on cnbctv18.com.
I did. The metal bottle, which the kids all use now. So
One less plastic bottle. Absolutely. It's important.
Yeah. and I think another thing that also is important that I've learned through the show, and we all say it, is none of us are perfect. I believe no one is an expert, unless of course you're a trained expert in a specific field. Most of us as parents are learning as we go along.
So don't be so hard on yourself.
Absolutely. And in my own show, I always say I'm not giving advice because I'm not equipped to give advice. I'm learning, I might say something like empathetic kids, and I might get home and get a blasting from one of mine. And then I feel like,
oh God,
I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud.
It's okay to be a fraud.
Absolutely.
All you parents listening to this podcast, it's okay.
Absolutely.
You try your best, and I think it is not an easy job. You just do your best. So we're talking about us, and we are a privileged lot, Tara.
Yes.
We have good homes, we have parents, we got the best of education, we had economic backing. Today we are in good positions, we are earning well. Yet we have tough moments and tough days which weigh us down. Have you gone through stories of parents who have probably triumphed extraordinary circumstances? And what is it that, any story that you'd like to share with us? And what is it that we can learn from it?
So again, quite a few, because of the way in which our show is structured, and we have themes in every episode, a different theme. We did a few on overcoming obstacles. So we did have, at that time we had Imran Hashmi, who spoke very, very touchingly about what he went through with when his son was unwell. And it continues to be, an episode that really touches my core because, again, it's helpful advice for anyone who's, God forbid, going through a difficult situation. It's also so personal, and it's also his book that he wrote is also a quest to help people. So I think that was very touching. We also had a friend, Sanam, who reached out through a parenting community. In fact, it was through Ruchi and First Moms Club. So because we have celebs and non-celebs on the show. She is wheelchair bound. She's paralyzed from the neck down. And she is an incredible mother. She spoke about how, the need for better facilities for disabled parents, how she's been for some events where she's not been able to watch her child because there was no ramp for the wheelchair to go up. Little things that you don't really think of. And it's not like you're not being empathetic or you're not being concerned. It's just that, unfortunately, there wasn't, one didn't give it as much thought. And I think actually our children now live in a generation where inclusion, diversity, empathy are huge parts of their everyday life.
Yes.
And I think that to me is also quite inspiring on a positive, that this is actually an age where these things are top of mind.
Top of mind. And people are asking for them, demanding them, and and there are parents who are overcoming all of those obstacles to raise wonderful human beings.
Absolutely, yes. So quite a lot of stories like that. People who've come out of the closet of what they've been through in order to do that. Harish Iyer and others. Then things which may not seem as and how amazingly they've opened the door for generations of people who can now do that more openly and realize there's nothing wrong. Then on a sort of less seemingly extreme way that people even people in their 30s and 40s, young women who've not yet got married, and the pressures they face when in an Indian society typically people will be like, why aren't you married, why don't you have children, things like that. So some of these discussions have really been very touching, and they've definitely made me learn a lot. And I think I like to believe sharing has helped people.
Right.
10 years ago it was not as people were not as easy to talk about being a parent, especially in the entertainment space,
Yes.
you know. So a lot has changed, and to me, it's a great thing that there are more and more shows, more and more communities, more and more digital platforms where these things
More
are discussed.
conversations happening around this.
Truly, if the aim is to bring about positive change, it's not about a selfish, only my show. It's about a
Widening
mass.
the message, having conversations.
Absolutely.
Well, Tara Sharma, I could go on speaking with you,
Same
but I'm
here.
going to wrap out this conversation on this note. More power to you.
Thank you. Same
Super
to
mom.
you. I don't know about the super part at all. I will go home and be put in my place.
I know. We will see our mirrors. But thank you very much for speaking with cnbctv18.com. And all you listeners, I'll be back next week with someone as thoughtful, as positive as Tara Sharma, with a new set of questions which we will address and conversations that we will engage in. Goodbye for now.